The MS-06S Char Zaku 2 is built for speed, precision, and sudden attack. With its commander antenna, distinctive red armor, and heavy bazooka, this is the mobile suit of the Red Comet at the height of its early legend. Hello, and welcome. In this video, we're going to show you how to paint the Char Zaku 2 from Gundam Assemble in a clean, striking scheme that's ideal for beginners. We'll break the guide down into two sections. First, we'll paint the model to a game-ready standard using simple base colors, clean corrections, and a finish that's ready for the tabletop. Then, in the second section, we'll take it further with shading, panel lining, highlights, glowing lenses, and optional battle damage to give the Char Zaku 2 a sharper, more dramatic finish. Before we start, let's look at what we'll be using. For tools, you'll need a pair of plastic clippers for removing parts from the runner, a hobby knife, file, or sanding stick for cleaning nub marks and mold lines, a few brushes, one larger brush for base coats, one medium brush for most details, one small brush for the mono eye, scope, panel lines, and highlights, a water pot, paper towel, and a palette. Gundam Assemble miniatures are push fit, so glue is not required. You can use a plastic cement if you prefer a more permanent build, but it's not essential. For paints, we'd recommend water-based acrylic hobby paints in these colors. We'll show you them on the screen as we go. For the main suit, a light gray or pale warm primer, a salmon pink or coral pink for the main armor, a pale peach pink for highlights on the main armor, a muted red-brown or maroon for the torso, waist, backpack, pipes, and darker armor details, a dark red-brown for shading those darker red areas, a very dark charcoal grey, almost black, for the bazooka, hands, knee panels, footsoles, vents, and mechanical details, a medium neutral grey for small weapon highlights and mechanical highlights, a light grey for sharper highlights on dark areas, a vivid pink or magenta for the mono eye and bazooka scope, a pure white for tiny lens reflections, black for deep recesses, the base and final panel lining. For optional advanced effects, a warm reddish brown for shadows on the salmon armor, a light salmon or pale peach for sharper edge highlights, a dark brown for chips and scratches, a pale peach pink for highlighting the lower edge of battle damage. You don't need exact brands. As long as your colors are close, this method will work. We'll begin with the build. Before cutting anything out, take a moment to look through the assembly guide. Char Zaku 2 has several small parts, including the commander antenna, shoulder spike, shield, bazooka, and backpack, so it's worth checking the part order before you start clipping. Use your plastic clippers to remove each part from the runner. Try not to cut right up against the surface of the parts straight away. Instead, leave a small nub of plastic behind. This is safer and gives us something to clean up afterwards. Work through the model in sections: the head, the torso, the arms and shield, the legs, the backpack, the bazooka, and the base and flight stand if included. Keeping the parts grouped by section makes assembly much easier. Once each part is off the runner, you may see small raised marks where it was connected. These are called nub marks. Use a hobby knife, file, or sanding stick to gently remove them. Take your time and use several light passes rather than pressing hard. If you spot any fine mold lines along the armor, scrape those away too. This is especially useful on the shield, legs, bazooka, and smooth armor panels where rough marks will show more clearly after painting. Now follow the instructions and push the model together. For this guide, we recommend fully assembling the model before painting because that's the simplest approach for a beginner and lets you see clearly where each color belongs. If you're more comfortable with model kits, you may want to paint in sub-assemblies. The bazooka, shield, backpack, and head can be easier to reach separately, but this is completely optional. Once Char Zaku 2 is built, cleaned, and ready, we can move on to priming. Primer helps the paint stick to the plastic and gives us a smooth surface to work from. For Char Zaku 2, we recommend a light grey or pale warm primer. This keeps the salmon pink armor bright while still making the details easy to see. If you're using a spray primer, spray in short bursts from about an arm's length away. Rotate the model as you spray so you catch the front of the torso, around the head and commander antenna, the shield, the legs and feet, the backpack, and the bazooka. Let the primer dry fully before moving on. We'll start with the main armor color. Take your salmon pink or coral pink and thin it slightly with water on your palette. The paint should flow smoothly from the brush without flooding the details. Apply this color to the helmet, the commander antenna, the spiked shoulder armor, the shoulder shield, the outer armor of the arms, the main armor of the legs, the feet armor, and the large flat shield plate and flexible pipes. The color may need 2 thin coats for a smooth, solid finish. Let the first coat dry before applying the second. Don't worry if you accidentally get salmon pink onto areas that will be darker later, such as the chest, hands, soles, or bazooka. We'll paint those next. Next, we'll add the darker red-brown areas. These give the model depth and stop the pink armor from looking too flat. Use a muted red-brown or maroon for the central torso armor, the waist and skirt details, the backpack casing, some rear armor and mechanical details, and any darker armor sections visible beneath the shield or bazooka. This color should look darker and slightly browner than the main salmon armor. Apply it in thin coats and take your time around the pipes and torso details. These areas have more texture, so avoid overloading the brush. If you make a mistake onto the salmon armor, let the paint dry and tidy it with the salmon pink later. Now we'll paint the darkest armor and the mechanical details. Use a very dark charcoal grey, close to black, for the hands, the knee panels, the soles and undersides of the feet, the deep vents and gaps in the backpack, the bazooka grip and mounting details, the inside of any mechanical recesses, and any small black panels across the model. Using dark charcoal instead of pure black gives us room to add shading and highlights later. These areas add strong contrast to the salmon armor, especially around the legs and weapon. Next, we'll paint the bazooka. Use the same very dark charcoal grey for the main bazooka body, including the long barrel, the rear section, the handle, and any raised weapon casing. The bazooka is a large visual element on this model, so keep the paint smooth. Use 2 thin coats if needed. For the muzzle opening, use black to make the barrel look deep and hollow. Now for the most important small details, the mono eye and the bazooka scope. Use a vivid pink or magenta and your smallest brush. Paint a small dot or oval for the mono eye in the center of the head visor. Then use the same color for the bazooka scope lens. These details are tiny, so don't overload the brush. A small amount of paint is enough. If you make a mistake, let it dry, repaint the surrounding area with dark charcoal grey, and try again. At the game ready stage, a clean pink lens is all we need. To finish the basic stage, we'll paint the base and flight stand. Use a black or very dark charcoal grey for the top of the base rim, and the flight stand or support strut. Work carefully around the point where the model connects to the stand. This keeps the base simple and makes the salmon armor stand out clearly. For the salmon pink armor, use a dark red-brown thinned slightly with water. Carefully run this into the panel lines on the helmet, the armor segments on the arms and legs, the edges of the shield, the lines around the shoulder armor, and the panel breaks around the feet. For the darker red-brown torso and backpack, use a mix of dark red-brown and black. For the bazooka, hands, knees, and foot soles, use black or very dark grey. If the paint pools too heavily, clean your brush, dry it on paper towel, and touch it to the pool to soak the excess away. And with that, Char Zaku 2 is finally game ready. At this point, all the main colours are in place. Take a moment to tidy everything up. Use salmon pink to clean the main armour and shield, muted red, brown or maroon to tidy the torso, waist, pipes and backpack, dark charcoal grey to clean the bazooka, hands, knee panels, soles and dark mechanical areas, vivid pink or magenta to sharpen the mono eye and scope. Once that's done, Char Zaku 2 is already game ready. You can stop here and have a clean, recognisable version of the Red Comet's mobile suit ready for play. Now let's take Char Zaku 2 to the next level. In this section, we'll add stronger shading, sharper highlights, glowing lenses, cleaner weapon definition, and optional battle damage. You don't have to do every step, pick the parts you like, and build your confidence as you go. We'll start with the main salmon armor. To shade this color, mix 2 parts salmon pink, 1 part warm reddish brown, and enough water to make a thin glaze. A glaze is a very thin layer of paint. It should tint the surface without completely covering the color underneath. Apply this glaze to the lower edges of the helmet, the recesses around the commander antenna, the panel lines on the shoulder armor, the lower edge of the shield, around the armor breaks on the arms and legs, and the lower parts of the feet, the spaces between the flexible pipes. On flat areas like the shield, pull the glaze down to the lower edge to create a soft shadow. Let it dry before adding another pass. Several thin layers are better than one heavy coat. This gives the salmon armor more depth while keeping the model bright and recognizable. Once the shading is dry, we'll highlight the salmon armor. Use a pale peach pink for the first highlight. Pick out the top edge of the helmet, the commander antenna, the edges of the spiked shoulder armor, the rim of the shield, the top edges of the forearms, the knee and shin armor, the front edges of the feet, and the raised edges on the legs, the edges of the flexible pipes, and try to use the side of the brush where possible. This helps the paint catch the edge naturally. For the final highlight, mix a little off-white into your pale peach pink. Use this only on the sharpest points: the tip of the commander antenna, the point of the shoulder spike, the corners of the shield, the front tips of the feet, and the most exposed edges of the legs. Keep these final highlights small. A few sharp points will make the model look much cleaner. Now we'll add depth to the darker red-brown areas. First, shade them with a mix of 2 parts muted red-brown or maroon, 1 part black or dark brown, thinned slightly with water. Apply this into the recesses of the torso, the gaps around the waist armor, the lower sections of the backpack, and any rear skirt or mechanical details. Let the shades settle into these details, especially around the pipes. Once dry, highlight these areas with a lighter rose brown or muted red. Pick out the upper edges of the torso armor, the ridges in the pipes, the top edges of the waist plates, and the raised backpack details. For the pipes, you don't need to highlight every segment perfectly. Catching the upper curve of each section will create a convincing ribbed effect. The dark areas need a little contrast so they don't disappear. First, thin black with water to make a simple wash. Apply it over the hands, the knee panels, the foot soles, the backpack vents, and any dark mechanical details. Let it settle into the recesses. Once dry, use a medium neutral grey to highlight the edges of the hands and fingers, the borders of the knee panels, the edges of the feet and soles, the raised details on the backpack, and any mechanical ridges. Then use a light grey sparingly on the sharpest points. This keeps the area dark overall, but makes them readable from tabletop distance. Now let's sharpen the bazooka. First, apply a thin black wash over the whole bazooka. Let it settle around the barrel rings, the handle, the rear casing, the scope mount, and the muzzle. Once dry, use a medium neutral grey to edge highlight the top of the barrel, the rings around the bazooka, the rear casing, the handle, and the edges around the scope. For a final highlight, use light grey on the sharpest corners and the front rim of the muzzle. The bazooka should stay dark, but these highlights help define its shape. Now we'll make the lens glow. Start with your vivid pink or magenta, then mix that colour with a little pure white to make a brighter pink. Paint a smaller dot inside the mono eye, leaving the darker pink around the edge. Do the same for the bazooka scope lens. Finally, use a pure white to place one tiny reflection dot near the upper edge of each lens. This is a small detail, but it gives the model a lot of character. Take your time and brace your hands while you paint. If you want a stronger glow, thin your magenta heavily and add a very subtle glaze around the mono eye or scope. Keep this controlled. A little glow goes a long way. If you'd like your Char Zaku 2 to look like it's been moving fast through heavy fire, we can add some light battle damage. Use a dark brown black and a small brush. Paint tiny chips and scratches on the outer edge of the shield, the front of the spiked shoulder armor, the knees, the front edges of the feet, the lower leg armor, and a few exposed edges around the torso. Keep these marks small. Less is more. Once the dark chips are dry, take your pale peach highlight color and paint a tiny line underneath each chip. This creates the illusion that the lower edge of the scratch is catching the light. On the shield, you can add a few longer vertical or diagonal scratches. On the legs and feet, keep the damage shorter and more scattered. To finish the model, we'll return to the base. If you're happy with the plain dark base, you can leave it exactly as it is. For a little extra detail, lightly dry brush the top of the base with medium grey, then add a smaller amount of light grey on the highest edges. To dry brush, load a little paint onto the brush, wipe most of it off on a paper towel, then gently brush across the surface. The paint will catch the raised areas and create a quick highlight. Finally, repaint the base rim and flight stand with black or a very dark grey to keep everything neat. Before we call the model complete, take a final look over each area. Check for any stray dark paint on the salmon armour, any salmon marks on the bazooka, panel lines that look too heavy, highlights that need tidying, whether the mono iron scope are bright enough, and whether the shield and legs have enough definition. If everything looks rough, go back with a base colour and clean it up. A careful final tidy up can make the whole model look much sharper. And with that, the MS-06S Char Zaku 2 Fast Encounter from Gundam Assemble is complete. We've taken the model from bare plastic through clipping, cleanup, assembly, priming, and clean base colours to create a strong game-ready finish. Then, we pushed it further with a shaded salmon armour, defined red-brown mechanical areas, sharp charcoal details, a highlighted bazooka, bright pink lenses, refined panel lines, and optional battle damage. Whether you stop at the game-ready stage or take it all the way through the advanced section, you now have a striking version of Char's famous model suit, ready to launch a fast encounter on the tabletop. Thanks for painting along with us.